Most legal experts agree unconstitutional. You can't do that through executive order. And it appeared that liberal justices agreed with the challengers that if ever there was a policy where you needed one nationwide court order to abide by, it's who is and is not a citizen. And Justice Kagan kind of got at this in her questioning. Let's take a listen.
I think that that's the rule that we've historically applied rather than the rule that the EO would have us do.
Even Trump appointee Justice Kavanaugh was confused over how exactly you implement a citizenship policy without a nationwide policy governing this question. Let's take a listen to his questions for the Solicitor General.
This is just a very practical question, how this is going to work. What do hospitals do with a newborn? What do states do with a newborn?
I don't think they do anything different. What the executive order says in Section 2 is that federal officials do not accept documents that have the wrong designation of citizenship from people who are subject to the executive order.
How are they going to know that?
The states can continue to, the federal officials will have to figure that out.
How?
So you could imagine a number of ways that the federal officials could.
Such as? They're only going to have 30 days to do this. You think they can get it together in time?
So what's unclear is how many of these issues the Supreme Court is going to give us a concrete answer on. We expect that it will give us some sort of answer, opinion on the power of district court judges, but it remains unclear whether they're also going to weigh in on whether birthright citizenship is constitutional. That would open the door for them to possibly get a win and a loss to the Trump administration. But no question, Jake, this is high stakes for President Trump.
What happens next fall?
So we expect an opinion late next month, and no matter what they decide here, this is going to have an enormous impact, not only on President Trump, but also on future presidents. As I said, over the past quarter century, these kinds of nationwide injunctions have become more and more common. So if this is something that presidents are not going to run into immediately, this is going to help them implement their policies specifically through executive orders. So I would say this is one of the most consequential issues right now facing the administration, and his lawyers, President Trump's lawyers, have told me they are thrilled to have this before the Supreme Court. Now, when it comes to birthright citizenship, they're not quite as confident on that specific policy.
All right, Paul Reed, thanks so much. Let's get the insights of our experts and correspondents who follow the story. Joan Biscuit best Supreme Court reporter in the country. You were in the courtroom today watching the justices. Were there any hints about where individual justices might be heading, both on the issue of whether or not judges and districts could rule for the entire country, and also on the larger birthright citizenship issue?
Well, I'll tell you what was most surprising. Those two issues were entwined the whole time. You know, we had wondered if they never would say anything about the merits of birthright citizenship. But what came through loud and clear is they felt like that was definitely a very large backdrop, so that whatever they say on nationwide injunctions at this point is going to affect whether any part of that policy can be enforced, and if it is a threat to people who would not qualify under Donald Trump's new policy. So I felt the frustration was palpable. They did not like how entangled was said, only rule on nationwide injunctions. Don't go near with birthright citizenship, because they know the Trump administration suspects rightly that that's a losing issue. But I think that in the end, what we're going to see is either a very narrow ruling, or potentially the justices say we're going to have to come back and we're going to have to open up the briefing on the actual merits of whether what Donald Trump did on January 20th was constitutional, to suddenly carve out exceptions to what has been considered for more than 150 years, guarantee in the 14th Amendment that anyone born or naturalized in this country is automatically a citizen.
So, Priscilla, let's talk about this idea of the narrow issue. If the U.S. Supreme Court says, okay, basically, local district courts, you can no longer issue federal injunctions for the entire country. You can't do that anymore. What happens? How messy could that get?
Very. And I can give you an example. It's not an apples to apples comparison, but it gives you an idea of just how confusing it can get. So, for example, the Alien Enemies Act, we've talked about it multiple times, Jake. This is the sweeping wartime authority that the administration wants to use to swiftly deport undocumented immigrants. Currently, that authority and whether it can be used is sitting across multiple district courts across the country. Some district courts, many of them, have said that the administration can't use it in their district, applying to only the detainees who are held in their district. So then you have this patchwork of rulings of these people can't be deported under this authority, but those in that other district can, because there hasn't been a lawsuit there yet. And on top of that, what we are seeing in some of these rulings is some judges do believe there's an invasion, others don't. Others say due process, well, 12 hours might be okay, or actually you need more than that. And so you can see how determine whether or not they can be sub authority or whether they're blocked. So this sort of speaks to, again, how it can be so difficult to navigate when there's not uniformity across the country, but when it's decided at the district level.
And Ali Honig, let's talk about the larger issue about birthright citizenship, which Joan points out people had considered to be basically settled law. Like President Trump does not, and he got to make the argument in court today. Section 1 of the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution reads, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. All persons born or naturalized in the United States would seem to settle the argument, but the Trump people say, no, it doesn't. Why?
Yeah, lawyers are always looking for the escape clause right here. And here, the alleged escape clause is the subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Now, going back to ratification of the 14th Amendment, 1868, that's been understood to be extremely narrow. It really only excludes foreign diplomats and invading foreign armies. That's why we have this very broad conception of birthright citizenship. What Donald Trump is arguing is no, it actually excludes anyone who's not here legally or permanently. And if that becomes the new law of the land, then that's going to make a huge change. It's going to really limit who can get birthright citizenship. And I will say, I think Trump's going to lose. Not here because they're not going to rule this year. Eventually, I think he's going to lose. I think there's 157 years of jurisprudence. He's 0 for 6 so far. Now, in this case, right, all the district courts and courts of appeals that have considered this have gone against him. And remember, there was that district court judge in Washington State, Reagan nominee from 1984, who said this is blatant. What Trump is trying to do is blatantly unconstitutional.
And Joe, this device of federal district judges blocking presidential policy across the country, as Paula mentioned, this is not just something that irritates Trump. This irritated Biden, this irritated Trump before, and it goes back to Obama. He was irritated by it too.
Oh yeah, there have been scores of these nationwide injunctions covering just even from the Biden administration. You can remember various environmental policies, the vaccine mandates, and they challenged them. The prior Solicitor General, Elizabeth Prelogar, took the same position that John Sauer, the current SG, is taking, that these have to be reined in. But here's the interesting thing. The Supreme Court has heard that argument over and over again, not as directly as today. And individual justices have complained, but they've never been able to come up with factors for when a judge should invoke the policy and not, just because there are cases, just like Priscilla just said, where some sort of nationwide court order would be appropriate. Many times it wouldn't be, but this is not a one-size-fits-all situation.
In a way, just because this is something that irritated politicians, presidents of both major parties, President Trump is doing something that President Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez might like, not on the birthright issue, but on the narrower ruling on whether district court judges can make nationwide law.
I mean, look, when it was President Biden, Republican red states had been fighting him every part of the way when it came to his immigration moves, and they would often win in court. There was nationwide injunctions. I will say though, Jake, as someone.
Joining us on this episode are real Spectrum customers, Monique and Greg. We hear your family is a big fan of Spectrum.
Family of 4, we have about 18 devices last time I counted.
2 teams require a lot of speed. Everything they do is online.
There's gaming, there's streaming. Spectrum is perfect for us. I mean, it just seamlessly connects all our devices with lightning speed.
Sounds like Spectrum is really committed to keeping you connected.
It's amazing.
Next time on the Stormy Warren Show.
Get your day started off right with the best in country music around the globe, plus conversations with your favorite stars.
Stormy Warren Show. Weekdays, 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central.
On the Big 615.
WSM Radio.
Joining us on this episode are real Spectrum customers, Monique and Greg. We hear your family is a big fan of Spectrum.
Family of 4, we have about 18 devices last time I counted.
2 teams require a lot of speed. Everything they do is online.
There's gaming, there's streaming. Spectrum is perfect for us. I mean, it just seamlessly connects all our devices with lightning speed.
Sounds like Spectrum is really committed to keeping you connected.
It's amazing.
Considering nursing school, go with the one trusted by the college experts. West Coast University.
Joining us on this episode are real Spectrum customers, Monique and Greg. We hear your family is a big fan of Spectrum.
Family of 4, we have about 18 devices last time I counted.
2 teams require a lot of speed.
Largest is this is Bollywood and Beyond, and we are doing a Holi special, and I will start off with some songs for the Holi and then get on with the rest of the show as we build it up. So here it comes. We start up the show with this.
Curry, 98.8 FM.
You are listening to Bollywood and Beyond on 98.8 Spice FM. With Ajay Saini.